falling in love versus being in love with someone to me is a really huge difference. And my next relationship really taught me a lot about that. Because the first two relationships the first one I met online, and then the second one essentially online. I think I mentioned was like working at a grocery store that I used to be frequent at a lot, but then we like started talking like online. But then this next ex of mine, XC, we met in person actually, and I really do love this story because I think it's really hard to meet people in person. And it was just like me doing something new, putting myself out there. But I actually wasn't supposed to be there the time that we met. It was like one of my friends reached out and we like talk like every few months. And I was a server at the time, so I remember I was working and my shift ended at 11 o'clock. And my friend reached out like he normally does, randomly asking like, "Hey, do you want to like go out tonight? Like, I really want to like go dancing." And I that server position, like my feet, that was the first time I was a server, and my dogs were barking. And I just was like, you know what, like sure, why not? Because I was very apprehensive, I was sort of really tired, kind of started to slow down on going out. I think I was about 26 at this time. But I was like, you know what, I'm young, I'm hot, let's do it. And so I remember like shift ending at 11 o'clock. I was about like a 10 to 15-minute bus ride down the street from work to home. I like quickly, got in, changed my clothes. Changed my clothes, changed my shoes, and like had him meet me, right when I was arriving, so ready to go. And I think we got then to the bar by like midnight. Um, and I don't remember how much longer it was after that, but I remember seeing XC, and it's literally like the world stopped. Like that whole, and even to this day, the memories I have, it's like there was no one else in the room but he and I at that time, that moment that I met him, or I saw him. I'm sorry. And I remember he was like coming in by the door, and I was like, already like halfway into the bar. And it just was like time stopped, and everyone kind of just like this, separating of the people just kind of happened, and like I just noticed him, and I think I ushered him to like come toward me, and I offered to buy him a drink, which was the first time I had ever done that. I am not someone that buys people drinks, but you buy me a drink. And I was like, I need to buy you a drink because you are very attractive. I find you very attractive. Like, please. And then whatever, I think maybe took a shot, like had a drink together, and then he like went back to his friends. I went back to my friend. And he just like kept coming back and forth after that. Like he literally came back again. I think we started making out, and then he left again and was like, I gotta go back to my friends. I gotta, make sure they know I'm okay. Mind you, I was definitely feeling the drinks by then, so I was just like, okay, whatever. I think at one of those interactions, I got his number and we started texting while at the bar, and I was like, I don't remember verbatim, but I definitely was like, I need you to come back over here, like. And then fast forward to the next day, we were immediately texting, and I immediately was like, I need to take you out on a date. Like, we need to go out. This was like right before or after, it was right around Valentine's Day, actually. I think it was maybe the day after Valentine's Day. So I remember our first date was, I believe, officially the 22nd of February. And it was just so magical. Like just the conversation, the energy, the attraction, the fact that we met in person. It was just like so heightened. Like I had never felt that before. Like my first XA kind of introduced a feeling of, attachment to somebody else. Like, oh, like I feel like he was the first person that I cuddled, and I was just like, what is this feeling? Like, this is like a thing. I didn't know people did this. And then the second XB was more like an unhealthy codependency kind of attachment. So XC now, I'm like, whoa, like I feel so differently because at this time from B to C, This is like December 2021, when I'm like about 25. I just turned 25 a couple months before then. And so it was like a whole year, I believe, of just being single. I turned 26, and then I met him, and it was like, okay, I had done the work to be okay by myself and not be insecure alone and like deal with loneliness. I also started getting back on social media because like I just was in college, for so long, and I was like, damn, I really like I miss my artistry and like putting myself out there. So I started, also taking uh exercise more seriously and like getting my body together and kind of where I wanted it. That was like the 26-year-old Demetrius was very much where I saw a lot of growth, internally, externally for myself. So by the time I met, XC, I felt very secure. And then for the first time ever, I like had this desire to pursue someone else romantically. And so I did that, and it was just so magical. Like literally, I don't remember when we went official, but it was very soon after that. And I had not learned my lesson, of course, with moving in with my partners because, I've mentioned before, like it's just more of a like coming from a low income background. It's like a business mindseted mentality that's like I'm just forward thinking and like, let's put our resources together. It's not like, oh yeah, I want to live with my partner, my boyfriend, because I like obviously barely know you. It's more like I don't want to be poor and live in a studio or live all the way far south on the south side of Chicago because that's the only thing I can afford alone. And like that really affects your lifestyle and like your, having to commute to work or school. Like it's really, it's a nuanced issue. And my way to work around it was to link up, right, and combine resources. So I didn't really learn my lesson with that. After I believe 2 months, which is like kind of the pattern, I think the X, A, B, and C after 2 months, I'm like, let's live together. Let's put our heads and our resources together, live together. And third time is the motherfucking charm. Even though it actually is not in my journey. But I'm very hard headed, so I pushed for us to move in with not only, he and I, but his best friend at the time. So in a way I recreated that dynamic of like living with a best friend and a partner, but this time I was the partner. The first time I had did it, it was my partner, my best friend. Now he was Demetrius in the situation, living with his boyfriend and his best friend. And that was really difficult because there was a lot of triangulation that happened. And obviously they, were friends for years, way before I came into the picture. So it was really difficult. It was a pretty small 2-bedroom apartment as well. It was a pretty small space. So she heard a lot of our arguments, and sometimes, her name would come up, and like it just was like a lot of drama. And then we, experienced some turmoil, some bumps in the road that don't matter, that we're not here nor there on. But it's just like, it was like 50-50. Like on one hand, the relationship was so like, passionate and romantic and like just intensely like love on, like, for me, and I'm sure for him too. But then on the other hand, it's like we were not able to like, resolve our issues together and like in a healthy, sustainable way. So like it was just such an extreme that I had never experienced before. Like at least with like, the other two, it was like, yeah, we knew that this wasn't gonna work. This like was us lying to ourselves. But this one was just like I have this intense inner, drive and motivator and like desire for this to work out, and it's literally not, and it's literally killing me that it's not. Like, and I feel like I have the tools, I have the experience, of how bad it can be to base this off of and do better, move better, and it just didn't matter. It wasn't, making a difference anyway. And so in the end, I really reverted to my old toxic ways, because I felt like I was being done wrong in my feelings and my experience, and, my expertise on relationships at this point was not being respected or valued or, considered. So I reverted to my old ways, and in a lot of ways, that relationship and that person and that household like that I created for myself really not only was a recreation of that first relationship of mine, but my family, my home dynamic as well, which that was the first time I ever experienced that too. So it was a lot for me. I felt like, I didn't even feel like, oh, like how I was with my other exes. I felt like this is how I felt growing up. Like, y'all are stressing me the fuck out. Like, uh, and when Demetrius is pushed to his breaking point, I do become very toxic. And I was really trying hard not to bring that out of me, but I just could not keep it at bay, and I just like, let everything kind of burn and like, turned it up a couple notches to really sever the connection. But for a long time in the beginning, like it was so magical. Like it was, I believe in June, so only like a few months after we started officially dating and met, I, took us to New York City. I literally paid for that trip myself and took us to New York City with my hard-earned money. And it was like, I would say 75-25, like the most romantic, beautiful, magical experience I've ever had with somebody. Like we were two lovebirds in New York City, like going to Central Park, like just sitting on the grass, like just it was really great. It was so nice to like, feel like I matched with my partner for the first time. Like we just like made sense next to each other, and like I didn't have to lie to myself or convince myself, to have sex with him and be into it and like get up and like, we had a lot of sex too. Like that was an issue with my last relationship where we were not really having sex a lot towards the end. But this XC was like he really wanted me. And like it was a nice feeling, like he really desired me too, and it was just one of our love languages was music, and like he kind of introduced me to that idea of sending music to each other, and like it was like the things that he couldn't say with his own words, he would say with music and song. And I just thought that that was so beautiful, so poetic. We could really carry a conversation, like it wasn't hard to talk to him. And I don't know, it just like it felt like we could be friends, like, but still with a relationship or romantic connection at the forefront. um so it just like, to make a long story short, made me understand and like really know what it feels like to be in love with somebody. Like I don't just have love for you and like wish you the best and want the best for you and like etc. It's like I'm infatuated with this person, and like they're the only person that matters in the room, and like I just like my whole my thoughts all get filled with thoughts of you and us and our future, and like I just run off into the sunset, in my mind about our relationship and what we can do and what we can be together. And, as far as this relationship specifically, that was kind of the problem, I guess, because I was very much and am a you and I against the world kind of lover. And he was not. He very much, subscribed to the we're two individuals, we don't complete each other kind of mentality. And it's not that I don't, agree with that. And, I don't think that it either or is insecure or not. It's just, I think it's beautiful to kind of, fit and merge together in a way and become something larger than just your individual selves. Like you create a bond and like a relationship, a partnership, a duo together, and like not necessarily that it's the most important relationship in your life, but like the connection that y'all have and create and nurture and tend to every single day, like, and running off into the sunset into the future with like it's just important, and it matters, and it's ours, and like I don't know, it's just like magical. I'll say that, like, this was the first time that I intensely like really loved somebody and just like loved us together. I didn't really see us separately. It was very much like, oh my God, we're so great together. Like, I just want us to work out. So it was really, really heartbreaking when it didn't. But maybe necessary, you know. Well, I know necessary from what what followed after. So I'm gonna have to get into that next time. But essentially, to me, being in love versus just loving somebody is like having the permission to, you know, see the relationship as magical and, you know, overly romanticizing every aspect of it and y'all's like, you know, connection and dynamic together. To me, that's what it felt like, and that's what I would like it to feel like in the future. Because that's what I'm searching for. I don't want to just like, you know, love others. Like, I want to find someone that I can be in love with and that be okay and normalized and, you know, welcomed. So, like I said, there's, you know, a few more relationships to go in this in this journey. But I recently have met someone, and in person, kind of similarly, like it was at a bar, and it's a beautiful, cute meet, and I can't wait to, you know, share that story when I get to it. But still got a couple more in the way, you know, to get to.